Good evening. We begin tonight with an investigation that has shattered trust at the highest levels. 20 Texas officials arrested in what federal...
For 47 a.m. Laredo, Texas, the border was silent. Then engines roared. Federal agents moved through darkness toward a warehouse that looked abandoned. What they found beneath the concrete would expose the largest political corruption network in Texas history. 20 elected officials, 52 tons of contraband, a tunnel system stretching 3 miles under sovereign American soil. This was not smuggling. This was institutional betrayal. Let me show you how deep this went. If you want the full truth about what your government has been hiding, hit like so this story reaches every American who deserves to know. The investigation began 9 months earlier, not with the FBI, not with federal task forces. It started with a sanitation worker in Laredo who noticed something wrong. Trucks entering a logistics facility at 3 a.m. heavy trucks. The kind that carry freight across international borders. But these trucks never left. They arrived full. They disappeared. For 3 weeks, Daniel Cortez watched the pattern repeat. Same vehicles, same hours, no departures. On April 14, 2025, he called the tip line. That single phone call would unravel a network operating since 2019. The warehouse sat on Industrial Boulevard, 2 miles from the Rio Grande. From satellite imagery, it appeared legitimate. Texas Freight Solutions LLC, registered business, tax records clean. But when FBI analysts cross-referenced truck manifests with border crossing data, the numbers did not match. Vehicles entering the facility had no corresponding exit records. 18 trucks in 6 months. Vanished. Agent Rebecca Marsh from the FBI's San Antonio field office requested financial records. What came back made no sense. Texas Freight Solutions reported annual revenue of $400,000, but their utility bills alone exceeded $600,000. Someone was funding a ghost operation. Surveillance teams deployed in May 2025. Cameras positioned on rooftops across the street. Thermal imaging detected movement inside the building at all hours. Heat signatures showed concentrations in areas where blueprints indicated no rooms existed. On May 22, a black Chevrolet Suburban arrived at 2:18 a.m. 3 men exited. 1 carried a duffel bag. Agents ran the plates. The vehicle was registered to the office of Webb County Commissioner Luis Vega, a sitting elected official. That changed everything. The case transferred to a joint FBI-DEA task force on May 28, Operation Broken Trust. The name reflected what investigators suspected. This was not just drug smuggling. This was corruption threaded through local government. Agent Marsh coordinated with DEA Special Agent Thomas Ruiz. They requested wiretaps on 14 phones. Federal judges approved warrants within 72 hours. What those taps revealed shocked even veteran agents. Coded language, drop schedules, payment confirmations, and names. County commissioners, city council members, a state representative, a district attorney's office paralegal. The conspiracy included 20 officials across 5 jurisdictions. Wiretaps captured a conversation on June 9. 2 voices discussing the southern route. One voice belonged to Commissioner Vega, the other to Ernesto Salinas, a known associate of the cartel Del Noreste. Vega said the route was clean for the next shipment. Salinas confirmed 40 units moving Thursday. Agents understood immediately. 40 units meant 40 vehicles, each capable of carrying tons. The scale was staggering. This was not opportunistic crime. This was infrastructure. Industrial-level trafficking hidden inside municipal corruption. By July, task force analysts had mapped the network. At the center, Texas Freight Solutions, owned through shell companies traced to accounts in Panama and the Cayman Islands. The money trail led to Martinez Logistics Group, a holding company controlled by brothers Javier and Hector Martinez. Both had ties to CDN leadership operating from Nuevo Laredo across the border. But the Martinez brothers were not cartels. They were businessmen, American citizens, living in gated communities, coaching Little League. The brothers had turned legitimate logistics into criminal enterprise, and they had purchased protection from the people elected to stop them. Comment exposed. If you believe every name involved should be made public. The deeper agents dug, the darker it became. Financial records showed payments totaling $8.4 million over 4 years. Cash transfers to personal accounts. Cryptocurrency wallets funded through exchanges in Singapore. Luxury purchases. A lakefront home in Austin bought by Commissioner Vega for $1.2 million. Cash. His salary was $92,000 annually. Agents found similar patterns across all 20 officials. State Representative Monica Torres purchased a Range Rover for $85,000. Paid in full. City Councilman Brian Herrera bought a boat. $73,000. No loan. These were not careful criminals. They were arrogant. They believed they were untouchable. August brought the breakthrough. An undercover DEA agent, posing as a logistics coordinator, made contact with Javier Martinez. The meeting occurred at a restaurant in McAllen. Martinez was cautious but confident. He explained his operation transported agricultural products requiring discreet handling. The agent asked about law enforcement risk. Martinez smiled. He said certain people were on the payroll. He named 3 officials, 2 commissioners and a police captain. The agent asked how deep the tunnel went. Martinez paused. Then he said, "You will see when you need to see." Tunnel. The word appeared twice more in intercepted communications. Agents initially believed it was metaphorical, a reference to smuggling routes. But thermal satellite imaging of the warehouse showed subsurface anomalies. Ground-penetrating radar detected a void beneath the building, long linear, running south. Engineers estimated it extended 3 miles, directly toward the border. The realization hit like cold water. They were not just using trucks. They had built a cross-border tunnel, under federal land, under the Rio Grande, a subterranean highway for contraband. Planning the raid required precision. The task force commander, FBI Supervisory Special Agent Carl Davidson, coordinated with Customs and Border Protection, ICE Homeland Security Investigations, and the U.S. Marshals Service. 83 agents, 12 entry teams. Simultaneous strikes planned for 21 locations. The warehouse, the Martinez homes, official residences of all 20 suspects. Timing was critical. If one target was alerted, the entire network could collapse evidence and flee. The operation was scheduled for September 11th. The symbolism was intentional. A day America remembers betrayal. September 10th, final briefings occurred at the FBI field office in San Antonio. Maps covered the walls. Red pins marked every target. Agent Davidson addressed the teams. He said this was not just about drugs. It was about trust. 20 people sworn to serve had sold their oaths for cash. They had enabled poison to flow into communities, into schools, into homes. Some of those drugs killed. Overdose deaths in Webb County had increased 41% since 2020. Fentanyl seizures tripled, and the people responsible were wearing suits and attending city council meetings. Type yes if you want to see how every target was hit at once. For 4:47 a.m. September 11, 2025, darkness covered Laredo. Fog rolled off the river. 12 vehicles moved without headlights toward Industrial Boulevard. FBI hostage rescue team operators wore night vision. DEA tactical agents carried ballistic shields. The warehouse had 2 entry points. Front-loading bay, rear personnel door. Team split, silence held until the breach command. At exactly 4:52 a.m., a battering ram struck the front door. Flashbangs detonated inside. Agents poured through. Voices shouted, "Federal agents!" On the ground. Inside, 3 men scrambled. One reached for a weapon. He never cleared leather. Agents subdued all 3 within seconds. Zip ties. Faces pressed to concrete. The warehouse floor was empty. Just old pallets and dust. But thermal imaging showed heat below. Agents searched. They found it beneath a hydraulic lift. A steel hatch. Locked from inside. Cutting torches burned through in 4 minutes. The hatch opened to reveal a shaft. Metal ladder descending into darkness. Agent Ruiz went first. Weapon raised. Flashlight cutting through black. The tunnel was not crude. It was engineered. Reinforced concrete walls. Electrical wiring. Ventilation shafts. LED lighting every 20 feet. The passage measured 8 feet high and 6 feet wide. Enough for vehicles. Rail tracks ran along the floor. A mechanized cart system for moving loads. Agents advanced slowly. The tunnel descended 30 feet below surface level, then leveled out. It ran south, straight as an arrow. Every 50 yards, support beams braced the ceiling. This construction required money, expertise, time. Agents estimated it cost over $12 million to build. Halfway through, they found the storage cache. A widened section carved into a chamber. And there it was. Pallets stacked floor to ceiling. Wrapped in plastic, each bundle marked with tape. Agent Ruiz cut one open. White powder, pure fentanyl. They counted 62 pallets. Each pallet held 40 bundles. Each bundle weighed 20 kilograms. The math was sickening. 49.6 tons of fentanyl. Enough to kill every person in Texas 14 times over. Enough to supply street dealers across 30 states. Wholesale value exceeded $2 billion. But there was more. Adjacent chamber held methamphetamine. Crystalline. Industrial quantity. 18 pallets. Agents estimated 12 tons. Another chamber contained cocaine. Compressed bricks. Colombian origin based on packaging. 16 tons. The total contraband seizure reached 52 tons. The largest single drug bust in Texas history. Larger than any cartel warehouse raid in Mexico. And it was not in Sinaloa. It was not in Juarez. It was under American soil. Protected by American officials. At the southern terminus, the tunnel surfaced inside a mechanic shop in Nuevo Laredo. Mexican federal police, coordinated through U.S. State Department channels, raided simultaneously. They arrested 4 men. Seized 3 vehicles loaded with precursor chemicals. The shop owner, a CDN operative named Raul Garza, was found with encrypted phones containing communications with Javier Martinez. The evidence linked both sides of the border. It proved binational conspiracy, cartel supply, American distribution, political protection purchased and delivered. Share this video so every community understands what was hiding beneath their feet. While Agent Ruiz secured the tunnel, simultaneous raids executed across Texas. U.S. Marshals breached Commissioner Luis Vega's home in Laredo at 4:55 a.m. Vega answered the door in pajamas. Agents found $412,000 in a bedroom safe. Offshore account statements. Encrypted phones. A ledger listing payments coded by initials. DVA. Director of Aviation. MCJ. Municipal Court Judge. The corruption map was handwritten. Vega kept receipts. State Representative Monica Torres was arrested at her Austin residence at 5:03 a.m. Agents recovered $270,000 in cash, jewelry appraised at $140,000, and a laptop containing emails with Hector Martinez discussing delivery schedules and fee structures. Torres claimed she thought she was consulting for a legitimate business. Her consulting fees totaled $1.6 million over 3 years. For a logistics company that filed near zero revenue. The Martinez brothers were taken simultaneously. Javier at his home in Mission, Texas. Hector at a ranch outside Edinburgh. Both locations yielded evidence. Financial records, burner phones, and weapons. 17 firearms including AR-15 rifles with high-capacity magazines. Javier Martinez attempted to destroy a laptop. Agents stopped him. Forensic teams later recovered encrypted communications with cartel leadership, payment ledgers showing $8.4 million distributed to officials, and blueprints of the tunnel system dated to 2019. By 7 a.m., all 20 officials were in custody. County commissioners, city council members, an assistant district attorney, a police captain who provided advance warnings of enforcement operations, a zoning board member who approved the warehouse construction permits without inspection, a county clerk who falsified business registration documents. Each played a role. Each accepted payment. The average payout was $420,000. Some took less. Some took more. But every single one knew. They were not deceived. They were complicit. The evidence rooms filled rapidly. 52 tons of drugs. $9.7 million in cash. Luxury vehicles. Jewelry. Firearms. Real estate deeds. Financial records documenting 4 years of systematic corruption. The ledgers showed payments began in March 2019. The tunnel construction started in June 2019. By December 2019, it was operational. For nearly 5 years, an underground smuggling route moved narcotics from Mexico into the United States while elected officials ran interference. They blocked inspections. They altered zoning codes. They warned of federal investigations. They were not passive. They were active partners. The human cost emerged in the days following the arrests. DEA analysts traced distribution networks supplied by the tunnel. Drugs moved from Laredo to Houston, Dallas, San Antonio, Austin, and beyond. Fentanyl batches seized in El Paso matched samples from the tunnel. Methamphetamine sold in Oklahoma City traced back through forensic chemistry to the tunnel cache. Cocaine distributed in Louisiana had identical cartel markings. Agents estimated the tunnel-supplied networks responsible for over 1,400 overdose deaths across 9 states since 2020. Those deaths had faces, names, families. A pregnant woman in Houston. A college student in Dallas. A grandmother in Tulsa who thought she was taking prescription medication. The fentanyl killed her in 11 minutes. If this level of betrayal shocks you, comment betrayed below. The institutional damage was immediate. Webb County government effectively collapsed. With multiple commissioners arrested, quorum could not be achieved. The governor appointed an interim oversight board. City council meetings in Laredo were suspended pending ethics investigations. Trust inside every municipal building disintegrated. Residents questioned every decision made since 2019. Which contracts were legitimate? Which zoning changes were honest? How many other officials were involved but not yet caught? The paranoia was justified. If 20 officials could conspire this openly, how many others looked the other way? Federal prosecutors filed charges on September 14, conspiracy to distribute controlled substances, conspiracy to import narcotics, money laundering, bribery of public officials, use of interstate commerce facilities to promote unlawful activity, structuring financial transactions to evade reporting, obstruction of justice. The indictments totaled 467 pages. The evidence briefs exceeded 1,200 pages. Lead prosecutor Assistant U.S. Attorney Jennifer Ochoa stated the case represented the most significant political corruption prosecution in Texas since the 1990s. She promised accountability. She said every defendant would face decades in federal prison. No plea deals. No leniency. This was betrayal at the highest level. The Martinez brothers faced life sentences. Their involvement was total. They designed the operation, financed the tunnel, recruited the officials, negotiated with the cartel, distributed the contraband. They were architects. Javier Martinez's attorney argued his client was a businessman exploited by violent criminals. The argument collapsed when prosecutors presented recordings of Javier discussing cleaning officials who might cooperate with investigators. Cleaning meant murder. He was not a victim. He was a predator in a suit. For the 20 officials, the legal strategy varied. Some claimed ignorance. They said they accepted payments for legitimate consulting. That defense crumbled under financial forensics. Others blamed coercion. They said cartel associates threatened their families. But investigators found no evidence of threats, only evidence of greed. Commissioner Vega attempted to cooperate. He offered testimony against co-conspirators in exchange for sentence reduction. Prosecutors declined. His ledger made him the linchpin. He distributed $8.4 million. He was the bagman. He would face maximum penalties. State Representative Monica Torres issued a public statement. She said she made terrible mistakes driven by financial pressure after a divorce. She asked for forgiveness. The statement landed hollow. Her financial records showed no distress. She had investments, savings. The luxury purchases began before her divorce was finalized. She was not desperate. She was opportunistic. Her constituents did not forgive. Recall petitions gathered 12,000 signatures in 3 days. Community reaction was volcanic. Protests erupted outside the Webb County Courthouse. Residents demanded transparency. They wanted every official investigated, every contract reviewed, every decision audited. Trust was not just broken, it was obliterated. Local media published deep investigations into city expenditures since 2019. They found irregularities everywhere. A road project awarded without competitive bidding. A consulting contract to a firm with no employees. Budget allocations for equipment never purchased. The corruption was not isolated to the tunnel. It infected everything. Comment your state below if you want to see investigations like this nationwide. The cartel angle deepened as Mexican authorities shared intelligence. Cartel del Noreste had been seeking stable smuggling infrastructure since 2018 after several above-ground routes were compromised. The Martinez brothers presented the tunnel proposal in early 2019. CDN leadership approved funding. $12 million for construction. $5 million annually for political protection. The investment paid off. Analysts estimated the tunnel moved $300 million in contraband annually. Over 5 years, that exceeded $1.5 billion. The return on investment was staggering, and the American officials who enabled it received less than 1%. They sold their country for crumbs. FBI Director Christopher Wray addressed the media on September 16. He called the case a sobering reminder that corruption thrives in silence. He said 20 officials betrayed their oaths because they believed no one was watching. He urged citizens to remain vigilant, to report irregularities, to demand accountability. He stated the FBI would pursue every lead related to public corruption with maximum resources. This was not just law enforcement. This was defense of democratic institutions. The tunnel itself became a symbol. Engineers studied the construction. It was sophisticated. Hydraulic supports, drainage systems to prevent flooding, air filtration to maintain breathable atmosphere, communication wiring. Some sections had poured concrete floors. Others had ventilation fans every 100 feet. The engineering rivaled mining operations. Experts estimated construction required 18 months and a workforce of at least 40 people. 40 people who dug in secret, who hauled dirt without detection, who built a 3-mile underground smuggling route beneath federal land without a single report. That silence was bought. Every worker paid. Every potential witness neutralized. Homeland Security investigations launched secondary investigations into construction supply chains. Where did the concrete come from? Who supplied electrical components? Who manufactured the rail system? Every vendor became a subject. Some cooperated. They claimed they believed they were supplying a legitimate industrial project. Invoices listed the client as Texas Infrastructure Development LLC, another shell company. Other vendors refused to cooperate. They were subpoenaed. Bank records revealed payments totaling $9.3 million. The money trail connected back to offshore accounts controlled by the Martinez brothers. Every nail, every wire, every beam was purchased with drug money. The environmental impact assessment revealed additional horrors. The tunnel passed beneath protected wetlands, endangered species habitats, federal land administered by the Bureau of Land Management. No permits were filed. No environmental reviews conducted. The construction violated 17 federal environmental statutes. Penalties for those violations alone exceeded $40 million. But the Martinez brothers would never pay. Their seized assets totaled $22 million. The rest vanished into offshore havens agents could not access without years of international legal cooperation. If you believe every asset should be seized and sold to fund victim restitution, hit like right now. The trials began in February 2026. Federal courtrooms in San Antonio filled daily. The prosecution presented overwhelming evidence: wiretap recordings, financial records, testimony from undercover agents, ledgers in defendants' handwriting, video surveillance showing officials entering the warehouse. Expert witnesses explained the tunnel's construction. Forensic accountants detailed the money flows. The defense offered little. Some defendants claimed entrapment. The argument failed. Entrapment requires government inducement. The conspiracy began years before any investigation. Others claimed constitutional violations in surveillance warrants. Judges denied every motion. The warrants were lawful, the evidence admissible. Javier Martinez was convicted on March 4, all 17 counts. His brother Hector followed on March 11, 16 counts. Convictions for the 20 officials came in waves through April. Guilty, guilty, guilty. The verdicts were unanimous. Some defendants wept, others sat stone-faced. Commissioner Luis Vega stared at the floor. State Representative Monica Torres shook her head slowly. The reality was settling in. They had traded freedom for money. Now the bill came due. Sentencing hearings stretched into May. Javier Martinez received life without parole. Hector Martinez received 45 years. Commissioner Luis Vega received 32 years. State Representative Monica Torres received 28 years. The police captain who provided intelligence received 25 years. Down the line, every official received federal sentences ranging from 15 to 32 years. No parole in federal prison. They would serve at least 85%. For some, that meant dying behind bars. For all, it meant losing everything: families, careers, legacies. They would be remembered not for service but for betrayal. Victim impact statements filled hours. Families of overdose victims addressed the court. A father described finding his son dead in a bathroom. Fentanyl poisoning. The son was 19. He thought he was taking Percocet bought from a friend. The pill was counterfeit, pressed with fentanyl that came through the tunnel. The father looked at the defendants and asked how they slept at night. No one answered. A mother spoke about her daughter, an honor student, cheerleader. She tried cocaine at a party. It was cut with fentanyl from the tunnel network. She died before the ambulance arrived. The mother said she would never forgive them. She said they were murderers in suits. The judge did not disagree. The tunnel was permanently sealed in June 2026. Army Corps of Engineers pumped concrete into the entire 3-mile length. The warehouse was demolished. The site cleared. A federal marker was installed. It reads, "In memory of victims lost to narcotics trafficking enabled by public corruption. May this ground remind us that vigilance is the price of freedom." The words are cold, bureaucratic, but the message is clear. Betrayal has consequences, and those consequences are permanent. Comment justice if you believe the sentences were appropriate. The broader implications rippled through Texas politics. 13 additional officials resigned under ethics investigations. State legislators introduced bills mandating financial audits for all elected officials. Transparency requirements for offshore accounts. Criminal penalties for officials who fail to disclose conflicts of interest. Some proposals passed, others stalled in committee, but the conversation shifted. Corruption was no longer abstract. It had names, faces, a 52-ton price tag. Citizens demanded reform. Some politicians listened. Others calculated how to ride out the storm. The system moved slowly, but it moved. National security analysts studied the case for lessons. The tunnel represented sophisticated infrastructure requiring years to build. It required financial investment, technical expertise, and most critically, it required protection from law enforcement. That protection came from inside government. The analysts concluded that transnational criminal organizations were evolving. They were not just bribing border agents. They were embedding themselves into local government, purchasing elected officials, building legal facades around illegal operations. The threat was not just drugs. It was institutional infiltration. The DEA updated training protocols. Agents now receive instruction on identifying public corruption indicators, unusual financial patterns among officials in border jurisdictions, zoning decisions that favor isolated industrial properties, resistance to federal inspections. The red flags were obvious in hindsight, but hindsight is perfect. The real question was whether future investigators would spot the patterns before another tunnel stretched 3 miles underground. For the residents of Laredo, the wounds remained open. Businesses struggled as national media portrayed the city as corrupt. Tourism dropped. Investment stalled. The mayor, who was not implicated, launched a rebranding campaign. Laredo strong. Laredo honest. The slogans felt desperate. Trust is not rebuilt with taglines. It is rebuilt with transparency, with accountability, with time. And time moves slowly in wounded communities. High school students faced questions about whether their city was the place with the tunnel. Teachers explained that 20 people do not define a city of 250,000, but the stain lingered. 1 year later, in September 2027, a memorial was dedicated in Laredo, not for the officials, for the victims. 1,400 names engraved on black granite. Each name represented a life lost to overdose from contraband traced to the tunnel network. Families gathered. Some placed flowers. Others stood in silence. The memorial text reads, "These souls were stolen not by accident but by betrayal. We remember them. We honor them. We vow to protect others from the same darkness." The ceremony included no politicians, only families, only grief, only the determination that memory might prevent repetition. The FBI closed Operation Broken Trust officially in October 2027. Final reports documented 469 charges filed, 27 convictions, 52 tons of contraband seized, 22 million in assets forfeited, 814 man-hours of investigation. The numbers told one story, but numbers never tell the whole story. Behind every statistic was a person, an agent who spent months tracking evidence, a prosecutor who worked 16-hour days building cases, a family who lost someone to poison, a community forced to confront betrayal from those they elected to lead. Hit like if you believe investigations like this need to happen in every border state. The tunnel is gone. The officials are imprisoned. The drugs are incinerated. But the questions remain. How many other tunnels exist? How many other officials have been purchased? How many other communities are being poisoned by conspiracies between cartels and corrupt leaders? The answers are unknown, but the capacity to find those answers exists. It requires funding, political will, and citizens who refuse to accept that corruption is inevitable. It is not inevitable. It is a choice. 20 people in Texas made that choice. They believed they would never be caught. They were wrong. This is not just a Texas story. It is an American story. A story about institutions only as strong as the people who serve them. A story about the price of complacency. A story about what happens when trust is betrayed and consequences finally arrive. The fight against corruption is not one with one raid. It is one with sustained effort, transparency, accountability, and the belief that no one, regardless of position, is above the law. Comment your thoughts below on what should happen to officials caught in corruption. Share this story so more people understand the scale of what was hidden. Subscribe if you want to see more investigations that expose the truth powerful people try to bury. This case is over, but the war continues. Vigilance is not optional. It is required. Because the moment we stop watching, the tunnels start growing again. And next time, we might not find them until it is too late. Stay informed. Stay vigilant. The truth depends on it.